Alright, so welcome to the first video of whatever I'm going to call this thing, because I haven't decided on what I'm going to be calling it yet. So, I think we're going to start off with obviously the youngest stuff that I remember, mixed with stories from other people that happened before I could remember that kind of stuck with me a little bit and explained some shit. Now, I'm gonna explain this the best way I can. Is mental illness kind of runs in our family. It's in the form of manic depression, anxiety. There's just lots of shit. And now I'm gonna start this off with, I'm gonna stop saying I'm gonna start this off. How about that? I'm undiagnosed. I never went to a doctor for anything having to do with any mental health problems. But upon reading and researching and learning about how stuff works or why certain little tics that are across the board, I've figured out that I have a lot of the issues, the same issues that run in my family. My mom just got diagnosed with ADD in her 60s. You know, because when she was a kid, that wasn't a thing. And that's one of the things I have. My son has it. Depression runs real heavy, as I already stated. Anxiety. The list of shit. There's a lot of it. I don't even want to get into all of it, because I don't know most of it. I'd have to go talk to a shrink. Let's just say I have a lot of problems. I have a overwhelming need to explain myself to new people. I get really anxious in places I'm not comfortable with. Certain types of people I'm not comfortable with. I've learned to really read people as a defense mechanism because of people that I probably should have trusted showed me that I couldn't, and unlikely people that nobody trusts, I do, for the same type of reason. So we'll start this off. I'll just jump right into it. We'll talk about, I was born January of 1987 in Hamilton, New York. Now, I was born a blue baby. I had the umbilical cord around my neck. And from what I gathered from the story, they said they weren't going to do anything to fix it. They weren't going to do anything to try and bring me pretty much back to life. I was dead before I was alive, from what I understand, from what people have told me. I could be wrong, but I don't think it was, because of the people that told me that were there. Now, alcoholism, drug addiction, abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse runs very thick. It ran thick in our household. Now, I heard lots of stories when I was a kid about my dad just smacking the shit out of my brother and my sister and my mom for no reason, because he was drunk over stupid shit. And then half the time not remembering he did it. That was a common thing before I could remember. And neglect was just as common, because I guess my first real tumble was down a flight of stairs in a stroller or a walker when my dad was supposed to be watching me, and he passed out on the couch. And I fell into the basement of the place we were staying at. And I was in a walker. So already off to a great start. Now, the first memories of shit that I remember that really started kind of setting the pace for like my outlook on life in general was we were living in the old schoolhouse apartments in Eerieville. And I remember my dad sitting in the bedroom threatening to kill himself with me standing right there with a shotgun. Now, really didn't know what it was at the time, but all my mom could do when she walked in was told him to go do it up on the hill. And that was my introduction to that. I don't know what role that plays in where my brain sits, but probably plays a pretty decent role. Now, my dad, like I said, he was very abusive to my brother and my sister and my mom. I don't remember a whole lot, but I heard stories. My brother was telling me that there was one time he had enough of my shit when I was little, picked me up by my hair and fucking tossed me across the room. Don't remember it, but like I said, that's stuff that was told to me by other people. But I do remember him getting ready to kill himself because of the shit going on. Now, my dad was one of those people that would fly off the handle over nothing when he was drinking. Something as simple as his Zippo ran out of fluid, or you didn't get up fast enough to get him a beer, would send him over the fucking edge. And there was lots of fights that I remember just being 4 and 5 years old. My brother wound up moving out, sleeping in a car with cats and his old lady. My sister moved out to my grandfather's house. They're both significantly older than I am. They were teenagers when I was born, roughly. Close enough to it. So they were out doing their shit when I was coming up. So it turned into an only child type thing really quick. I barely remember my brother living there, and I don't really remember my sister ever living with us. Obviously, because of my father. No. My mom eventually kicked him out. Now, there wasn't all bad shit that happened then, but in that time frame, there was a lot of good shit too. So there was cool shit that like my brother used to do when we'd come over for the holidays. He set up the CB when I was 5 and got me to talk to Santa Claus, which turned out was a buddy of his up the road with another CB. But it felt cool when you seen a light with a little blinking light, and they're telling you it's Rudolph, and you're talking to Santa on the CB. That was a cool memory. There was a couple little cool memories like that, but I was left to my own devices a lot of the time. Even then, I don't have a whole lot of memories of doing stuff with people other than once in a while riding down to the lake with my brother. He'd ride me on his handlebars down to the lake and shit like that. I remember popping a lot of caps with rocks and spending a lot of time in the yard and up on the hill out back. Shot my first gun up there when I was 5 years old. My dad stood behind me and let me shoot because when he wasn't drinking, he was a great guy. Problem was, it was a rare occasion to catch him not drinking. It was pretty much an easy target thing for me with other kids. once I didn't have the big brother to stick up for me. And when I'd say something, it felt like it just got brushed off. Like one of our neighbors that was over there, I can't remember his name. One of our neighbors that used to live next door, we never had a ton of money. So it was a bike from whatever or whatever. Like I have a bike, and but either way, what the neighbor would do was like take the handlebars off of it and fucking throw the handlebars in the weeds. Which joke was on him because at 6 years old I learned how to ride a bike without handlebars, and that is honest truth. But they do shit just to torment me like that. Like I remember him chasing me with a riding lawnmower because it was funny to watch me run. Shit like that. He was obviously significantly older than me, but it was like fuck with the kid next door, the little fat kid or whatever. A lot of shit like that happened. And I'm not, between that, the household situation, my outlook on shit wasn't very super bright. One thing good that did happen was my love for music. We had a George Thorogood VHS tape that was a live set from his, and it had like 2 music videos at the end of it. And I would play that on loop in the living room, obviously, because that was I had a lot of time in there. Everybody usually hung out in the kitchen. So, yeah, that's my love of music started then. And it was a form of escape. Now, there was a lot of other shit, that little stupid shit, like people fucking with me and whatever, being a kid, but scaring the little kid was always a part of the fucking family shit. But the stuff that really sucked was stuff like that. I got to the point where, like, horror movies and shit didn't bother me because my brother used to fuck with me so bad. And that was at a young age. So, yeah. Mom kicks dad out. And we get a new I get a new introduction to the family, I guess. Mom meets this other guy. This other guy, he's a great dude. But there was also a whole lot of after dad got kicked out, when I'd go see my dad on the weekends, there was an awful lot of prying. Now, this is something that I know goes on to this day with split parents. That's really fucked up. And it's grilling your kids about information about what the other parent is doing. Because if the kid slips or just says something that he thinks is innocent, and he witnesses a fight between 2 adults because of it, that kid thinks he's the cause of it. And that's what a lot of people don't fucking realize. Lots of fistfights that happened after that. Dad lived in a little had 2 little shitty efficiency apartments that in Casanova that he stayed in. And we lived in Erieville till we moved to Canastota, which was right around, I want to say, 6 or 7 years old. My mom moved to Canastota. My dad lived in Cas. Lived in 2 little efficiency apartments and stayed with an aunt. Now, the efficiency apartments, it was literally, it was God, I want to call it a boarding house. It was the best way I could describe it. It had 2 bathrooms that were public bathrooms. Like, they were regular bathrooms, but the whole upstairs of the apartment building could use them. There was a community kitchen, little storage area, little dining area. Your apartment, quote unquote, consisted of one living room and one bedroom. Everything else was shared. The other apartment had the only room that was separate was the bathroom. But through both of these places, Dad continued on his benders. He never had money for shit else, but always had money to drink. Figure that out. My mom moved into Canastota with a friend of hers. And the place was really cool. Had a lot of neat stuff in it, like just, it was huge. It was open. So, like, I could set up fucking cans and shoot them with a slingshot right in the house. Speaking of the slingshot, my first ever really bad screaming at from another adult happened because of a slingshot. And that kind of set the pace for, like, certain ways to talk to kids and certain ways you shouldn't. Because I remember all I was doing, I was outside, I was taking M&Ms, shooting them up in the air. Like I said, I was 6 or 7, roughly, and I heard one of them go tink, and it landed in the bed of this guy's truck. But he was watching me out the window. So as soon as that thing hit the inside of his truck, he come down and felt the need to cuss me out like a full-grown ass man. I honestly can't remember if he grabbed me or not, because I blocked a lot of that out. It was pretty fucked up. But whatever. I honestly don't know what I would do in a situation like that. Every weekend I went to Dad's house. That was just how they had it set up. Every weekend Dad was grilling me for information about what was going on at Mom's house. Which got me to the point of exhaustion, because if I didn't say anything, it wouldn't stop. But if I said something, there was some bullshit that happened on the other side. Dad would say something to Mom. Mom and Dad would be in a fight, or somebody would be in a fight with my father. And there's nothing like every Sunday being some sort of fucking drama at pickup and at drop off. Like, I don't know. I remember many nights of just watching my dad drink till he passed out on the couch, even at a young age like that. And then me getting into some fucked up shit, not knowing how something worked, damn near electrocuting myself or lighting stuff on fire because I was, like I said, left to my own fucking devices. And until something drastic happened, like the breaker blew or he smelled smoke, or that was when he felt the need to grab a hold of me and drag me away from there. He didn't really beat my ass, but tossing me across the room happened a few times. I learned some lessons there. And that yelling about the Zippo and shit like that wasn't just adults he did that with. He had no problem with doing it to someone my age too. I had been reduced to tears multiple times by my own father over stupid shit like that. And I think the first time I actually felt depression, I was right around 5 or 6 years old, because he was guilt tripping me, saying I didn't care about something. I don't remember what it was. But that was the first time I felt overwhelming fucking sadness, and I didn't know what it was from. And I don't know, I just kind of sat in my room. Well, sat in the room. There was no my room. Until my mom came and picked me up. And For some reason, I felt better. It was guarded like a day. But there was a whole lot of fuck shit that happened. And I'm sure I'm glossing over a lot of stuff because looking at that kind of lifestyle when you're a kid, this is what you think of as normal. And I look at how I raised my kids, and that by no means was normal. But it was to me. So, growing to have tough skin and shit like that was kind of a thing. Like, I remember I cried, but it wasn't something I did. I was raised to have respect, and I just I dealt with the shit myself because I didn't want to bother anybody. Then, not a whole lot happened in Cazenovia. Not that I can recollect that was really standoutish, other than like good shit with my dad. Like, he took me fishing there a couple of times and shit like that, but it always ended in a drunken fucking stumble fest back to the house. So it was what it was. And another thing you got to keep in your mind when I'm telling you these stories is that, like I said, I was 5, 6, 7 years old. I didn't have friends. I didn't make friends easily. I was a fat kid. I was an easy target in school. I didn't even have a whole lot of friends at my mom's house. I don't remember any friends from that age. The only 2 friends I remember from roughly that age were my friends Sean and Sydney, and they were at my dad's house, which I only got to see on the weekends. But that came with a whole mess of stuff. Then we finally moved to Morrisville. My dad moved to Morrisville. We lived in apartment 53 on Campus Hill. And it's supposed to be off-campus housing for students. I don't remember what it was then. There were students up there, but there was also families that lived up there. Now, I had Sean and Sydney for friends. I had the lawyer boys. They lived up there too. And I had my friend Kevin. Now, up there, it was a lot of the same from my dad. But I actually had kids I could play with. So it was like a small blessing. I found my first hip-hop CD up there. It was one of the House of Pain CDs. It had the first rap song I memorized was pretty sure it's called It Ain't a Crime. I can't remember the name of it to this day, and I've heard it a million fucking times. But that's what I did. I had a little boombox and I listened to it. And that was my escape then. I had hip hop music. Now I'm still roughly 6, 7, 8 years old. I remember my dad having people stay with us that were just utter scumbags. People that lived with him. One guy that he thought it was cool, even though that there's a kid walking around, that he'd spit dip right on the floor of the apartment and not have a problem with it, just rub it in with his foot. And we dealt with that for a while. I don't know what the deal was with my dad letting him stay there, but it was fucked up. But I'd go over to my friend Sean and Sydney's place and hang out with them a lot. And I don't remember a whole lot of bad stuff happening with them at all. Not around that time period. It wasn't until later in life that I started seeing differences and shit. But no, the one friend that I had the closest was his name was Kevin Stanfield. And he was from North Carolina. And his mom was Vicky. His dad was Lonnie. And they were both drunks. So obviously they got along with my dad great. Now the difference when my mom left or kicked my dad out, my dad didn't really get into a whole lot of the abusive shit with me. It was a whole lot of mental shit. You know, nothing physical. It was all mental. And, you know, half the time I didn't even think that he knew that he was doing it. So, hanging out with Lonnie and Vicky and Kevin was like the one that I connected with because he was in a fucked up scenario too. He grew up around drugs, alcohol, and a lot of physical abuse. The only main difference was it was directed towards him, mainly by Lonnie, because Kevin was his stepson. It was the stepchild getting beat, so to speak. Now, it was the whole niche kind of stuck together, even moving in and out of places and whatever. Everybody kind of stayed together. We all moved around the Morrisville area, but still hung out. And I remember one time specifically, like I said, I'm still right around 8 years old, maybe 9, somewhere in that area. Still living in apartment 53. We all decided that Lonnie, Vicky, Kevin, my dad, and me, we were going to go to a place called The Rope. And we were going to go just spend a day down there. It was a rope swing over the lake. Now, we'd all go out and we'd do our shit and whatever. And it was a good day for the most part. There really wasn't a whole lot of bullshit. They'd all gotten drunk, drove back to Campus Hill. And apparently something had broken out in the car. But at that age, dealing with that shit all the time, you learn to tune it out. I'll remember them fighting. It wasn't until we got back to the apartment complex that I remember them fighting. Because me and Kevin were just walking, 10 feet in front of them or so. And we're doing what kids do. We're just joking around, goofing off and whatever. And laughing and giggling. And my dad went up to our apartment, to grab something. And I went over to Lonnie and Vicky's with Kevin. And we went to the bedroom, shut the door, and we're sitting there, and there was nothing to do, no video games or none of that bullshit. So what we did is we flipped the bike over on his floor, and we're just cranking the pedal as fast as we could and trying to chuck shit at each other like pennies and shit. Threw the spokes at each other because, like, what else is a kid to do without anything to do? What are you going to do? But we're in there. We're having fun, just being stupid. Not being loud. Not to my knowledge, at least. And all of a sudden, fucking Lonnie just bursts in the fucking door. Grabs Kevin right up off the floor, throws him on the bed, and starts beating his ass. And I'm not talking like spanking for being bad. I'm talking he's slapping the fuck out of everything about this kid. And the kid couldn't have weighed 80 pounds. He was smaller than me. And Lonnie is kicking the shit out of him. Just saying, you think that's funny? He just kept saying it over and over, kicking the shit out of him. And yelling. And I'm sitting on the floor, and I don't know what to fucking do. Like, I had enough of this bullshit. Growing up, watching my brother and sister and my mom go through it from my dad. And I know, now I'm physically seeing this shit with Kevin. And I froze. And I just kind of stared. And Lonnie must have forgotten his drunken fucking stoop that I was there, because he noticed I was there and he walked out of the room. He just stopped beating the shit out of him. And I remember Kevin snapping on me. And he just started fucking choking me. yelling in my face, screaming, why wouldn't you help me? Why didn't you help? And I didn't know what to do. That kind of stuck with me. So that's a lot of where the child abuse and women abuse thing comes from with me. That shit doesn't fly with me. I can't see it. I can't know about it. If I see it happen, and there's going to be a problem. I know the difference between discipline and abuse because I witnessed it first fucking hand. That was abuse. Getting 2 pops on the ass because you tried to do something that you were told not to do multiple times and you decided to be a prick. That's punishment. Abuse is getting your fucking ass kicked and not knowing why. Because somebody needed to beat the shit out of you. That's abuse. That's trauma. And it doesn't matter if it was you or if you witnessed it. You really learn to lose a lot of trust in people at that point. Especially people that you're supposed to be looking up to. And you witness them doing it to somebody that one of the few people you can confide in as a kid. So there's a little bit of fucked up shit just up until I was 8 years old that I got to witness. That I guess the point of this one is to know, if you're an adult watching this, that shit, your kids absorb all of it, whether you know it or not. So if you're sitting there thinking about killing yourself or something, you should probably talk to somebody before your kid sees you. If you got a problem with alcohol or drugs, go get fucking help before you fuck somebody else's life up. Luckily, I got a what not to do brain. All that shit taught me what not to do, how not to be, as opposed to what I could have been. And a lot of the stuff with my mom around that time frame was whatever, because Mom didn't really grill me, so I wasn't about to start getting drilled about stuff that happened at Dad's house by my mom, like I was getting drilled by my dad for what was happening at my mom's house. I didn't want to deal with that twice a week, every week, forever. So when I got picked up from my mom's, I just said it was good. It was a good weekend. It was fun. And a lot of the times it was, but there was a good 40% of it that was just shit. Well, I guess that's the end of this one for now. We'll leave it off with that. Just remember that if you were one of the kids in the story of me, Kevin, whatever, you can still go talk to somebody and get help to try and sort that shit out. Because it probably has a lot of reflection on how you are today, whether it be good or bad. If you are one of the adults from the story, and you are you're basically choosing something to help self-medicate that is doing nothing but hurting somebody else, maybe you should go talk to somebody about fixing that as well. Because I can promise you, the people around you, the people that see you, your kids, your family, you're fucking them up more than you think. You're doing it to keep yourself fucking safe, but you're fucking them up just as bad. And it doesn't... I'm not necessarily saying that it's bad. I have it bad, or I had it worse than this person or that person. The point of this is to say that for me, that shit was normal. And now, I know it wasn't. That wasn't how it was supposed to be. And I'm not saying everything's got to be butterflies and pancakes and shit, because stuff like that toughens your skin. And I do believe that this generation's gotten really soft, but it doesn't need to be done like that. It don't need to be done like that. You have to have a little bit of self-awareness to know what your actions do and how they reflect upon other people. That's why I try to be the best I can be. I may do fucked up shit. I used to do it a lot. Nothing to that extent. Mine was more do what I gotta do to get ahead, do what I gotta do to survive type shit. But that's where my hatred, like I said, for child abuse comes from. My hatred for spousal abuse. And mental abuse. Because whether you know it or not, anything you say and do to your kids are picking up. And I guess the best way I could put it, if you're one of the people that beat the shit out of somebody or beat the hell out of them, that you can only hope that they choose not to do that to somebody else in their future, because they know how it feels, as opposed to the where they turn into that same person. Because the undermining, the majority says hurt people. And it becomes a never-ending fucking chain. We'll get into more of that on the next one. So, I hope you enjoyed that shit, because I don't know if I did or not. There was a whole lot of rambling and babbling, but we got to the point of it. And I'm sure there's shit I missed, because like I said, I'm doing this on the fly with nothing. I didn't write nothing down. This is all from in here. So, think about your actions. If you need help, get help. And don't confuse discipline with abuse, because I've seen fucking abuse. And we'll get into more of that next time. So, have a good night. That was exhausting.